Last week we found ourselves being little sheep and goats by Yankov Avinu, and perhaps it was a comfortable role, so we'll continue to be so this week. So Yankov Avinu sent malachim, he sent messengers to Esav, and he told him that I have extracted all the neshamas of Bnei Yisrael from Lavan. They are now in my possession, in whichever form they are. Some of them are shayel, they're oxen. Some of them are chamayel, donkeys. Some are sheep. Some even have been elevated to be in the madreiga, in the status of human beings, Eved v'shivcha, a servant maid. So we find in this week's Sedra that Yankov Avinu was very concerned with all his belongings. When he crossed the stream, he realized that he forgot pachim ktanim, small little pitchers, and he endangered himself in that night. And it was a dangerous night. That night was Tisha B'Av, and it was on that night that Yankov Avinu had the struggle with the Sal Shal Esav, with the angel, if we can use such a name. Perhaps it's more appropriate to use the word the devil, with the angel of Esav, who manages the affairs of Esav in heaven. Because that night Esav is powerful, and he chose that night to have his encounter with Yankov Avinu. So in such a dangerous night, when people are careful not to go out of doors, Yankov crossed the river all himself. Vayivasa Yankov levada, he remained alone at night without a shmira, without being guarded, because he forgot small little pitchers. All the belongings of a person, the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, have little nitzaitzes. They have little sparks of his own neshama vested in those objects. If this pen is mine, so this pen contains a part of my neshama. When I eat an apple, and I am generous enough to give you half of my apple, everything is guided and conducted min hashamayim, from heaven. Part of that apple has part of my neshama, and I have to eat that apple because I have to incorporate into myself those sparks of kedusha which are in that apple. These are parts of my neshama. The half of the apple which I gave yours is b'hashgacha pratis, with individual attention from Hashem, who takes care and of the destiny and the occurrences that go through the day to every creature, whether he is a man, whether he is an animal, whether he is a leaf on a tree, whether he is a worm or a particle of dust. Everything is guided and conducted by the Rabbeinu Shalom with hashgacha pratis, with individual attention. That's how the Baal Shem Tov taught us. And even though we do find perhaps in some Rishonim otherwise, in some Rishonim we have that they said that there is individual attention only to each individual in the human race, but as far as animals and other creatures are concerned, they are guided by Hashem only in a collective way. That means the species is guided and guarded by Hashem. However, the Ramban holds otherwise, and the Baal Shem Tov told us that this is the truth. If we will have the opportunity at a later date, I may try to reconcile the Rambam with the Ramban, that there really is no machlokes. But at this point, we won't go into this, and we'll realize the emes which we even believe, and we have many medrashim which will back up this belief of the Baal Shem Tov, that every individual creature is directed by Hashem, is taken care of individually by Hashem. His food, mikani reinim ad beitzeichinim, from the greatest of creatures until the eggs of the lice. Everything is taken care of Hashem. And the Medrash tells us, it's a Medrash, and it's also a Zayah, that when Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was in the cave for 13 years, so when he walked out of the cave, because he was hiding there from the Roman king who wanted to execute him. So when he walked out of the cave, he ventured out of the cave, he saw a hunter hunting birds, and he heard by each bird that the hunter tried to catch, he heard a baska, a voice min hashamayim, which would announce and upon each bird whether he shall be captured or not. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said then, if birds aren't captured unless it has been so decreed by Hashem, each individual bird, this bird yes and this bird not, I certainly won't be captured by the king of Rome unless it is decreed so by Hashem. So he ventured out of the cave, and things went well then. So every object which a person has ownership of really belongs to him, because there are particles of his neshama in this object. This pen is mine, and I have to utilize this pen and let the pen service me, so that those particles of my neshama which are in the pen shall be used by me and become part of me. If I should consume all the particles of my neshama in my pen, and there is nothing left from me, but there are still particles of somebody else's neshama, I am either going to lose the pen, or I'm going to give it away to somebody, to whoever is supposed to have it, according to his neshama. But every belonging that a person has is his because it's related to him by relation of neshama. There are particles of a person's neshama in all his belongings, and a person's neshama spreads itself and it activates all his belongings. Therefore, the belongings of a tzaddik are holy also, to the point where a donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yael, the donkey refused to eat the oats which it was served, and when Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was at a certain inn, and the innkeeper complained to Rabbi Pinchas ben Yael, your donkey doesn't want to eat the oats. So he said, did you take off myself, the tithe, the tenth which is supposed to be taken off? So when the innkeeper did that, then the donkey ate. It didn't want to eat because it was a shayla and those oats. A donkey is allowed to eat table. A donkey is allowed to eat food, oats, without the trum and mainsa being taken off, especially the way the Gemara says there, that it was only a suffix, the mai, it was only a doubt whether the mainsa has to be taken off or not. But being that it's Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair's donkey, it has particles of Rabbi Pinchas neshama in there. And that donkey won't transgress any virus of the Torah. So even small little, Yankov knew that even small little pachim, small little pitchers, are his, and he cannot let them be lost, because if they were given to him, he has to use them for a purpose which would elevate those particles of the neshama in him. And actually, in that picture, there were particles of Jewish neshamas, of future generations. So therefore, Yankov endangered his life to cross the river again to retrieve those pictures which were on the other side. So Yankov prepares to meet Esav, and the parasha tells us, "Vayikach min haba b'yadai mincha leYesav achiv." Yankov took from what came into his hand a present for Esav, and the Torah makes a point to tell us exactly how many animals were given to Esav as a gift. And the Archaim HaKadosh counts the animals, and he finds that they are 580. The Gematria Seir, which is Esav. And Seir, 580, Shin Ayin Yud Reish, 580, that's Esav's name, because Esav derives his existence, and he lives through the channel of the Kaichais of Ra, the spirits of evil. And we know that there are two malachim, or as I said before, if you want to call them devils, which are the chiefs of all the spirits of Ra. There is a malach and his wife. The malach is called, I don't want to mention his name because of the tumah, it's Samach Mem and Aleph Lamed. His wife is called Lamed Yud Tav. Now, these names the wife's name is mentioned in Iyev in a certain pasuk. So being that it's mentioned in the pasuk, I'm not so much afraid of saying the name, Leelis. She's called the angel of the night, or of Yelal, of woe, of lamentation. And he is Samach Mem, which is the Isis of the part of Ra, of evil in him, and Aleph Lamed, which is Hashem's name, which gives him his existence. However, Samach Mem without the Aleph Lamed, plus his wife's name, which is Lamed Yud Tav, together is also 580, which is the Gematria Seir, which is the amount of animals which Yankov sent to Esav as a gift, which would suggest that this gift was something like the Soyer La'azazel, the offering that when the Beis Hamikdash was in its erection, the offering of that was given on Yom Kippur, and one of these animals, a seir, was thrown off a certain rack, as if the vayishlach throws it to the dogs, for the devil. So actually, this is what Yankov Avinu did now. It was a certain, perhaps, appeasement which he gives to the kaiches of Ra. Here is yours, like you throw a bone to the dog, and don't disturb my meal, please. Here's your bone, and leave me alone. So this is the Sa'ir, the 580 animals which Yankov sent to Esav, which is the gift to Esav. and it's supposed to represent Yom Kippurim, and really the Zohar says so. The Zohar tells us, and this is the piece of Zohar which we say on Rosh Hashanah before the Tkiyas Shofar, that on Rosh Hashanah Yankov gets the brachas from Yitzchak, the Yitmalacha, and then on Yom Kippur he sends the Soyal Azazel, which is like Yankov sending it to Esav, and after that, when Esav is going to realize, oh, what did I do? I consented on the brachas, on the blessings, which Yankov received from Yitzchak. I wonder why I did it. And he perhaps would want to catch Yankov, and perhaps he would rescind his consent to the blessings. So what does Yankov do? He runs away. After Yom Kippur, what does Yankov do? He runs into the sukkah to seek refuge in the sukkah. So after this parsha with the encounter of Yankov with Esav, and Esav receiving his appeasement, and Esav consenting to the brachas and making peace with Yankov, so immediately afterwards, Yankov nasa sukkais. Yankov goes to sukkais, v'yivna loy bayis, or miknei rasa sukkais, v'yikra shem amakim sukkais. So we have sukkais. This is what we have in this week's parsha. So when Yankov goes and sends this gift to Esav, and since we are animals in Yankov's flock, we should be interested in knowing what's going to be the plight of those animals which were sent to Esav. After all, we're all buddies in the flock, and Yankov has to send animals to Esav. Now, Yankov, having cared for 20 years over his flock and over his belongings, Yankov, having toiled by day and by night in cold and in heat, as like his own account is at the end of Vayishlach, to get together and be mekabetes, to gather this flock and extract them from Esav, from under the talons of Lavan. Why should he go and give away 580 of these animals, who are probably Jewish neshamas, to Esav? But he had to. Sometimes you have to give away something, that's part of the deal. But how would he, on what ground would he choose these animals? Why should he take some animals away from the Kedusha of being in Yankov's possession and give them to Esav? But we have a little story in Sefer Melachim, and the Gemara elaborates upon that story, that Eliyahu Hanavi, by the altar of Hashem and lahavdo, that of the Baal, there were worshippers of the Baal, there were worshippers of the sun in the times of Eliyahu Hanavi. And Eliyahu Hanavi wanted to prove them the point that Hashem hu Elokim, there's one God. Of course, all the Jews believed in God, but they also believed that the sun is vested of certain powers, and that God designates certain powers, and the sun and other such forces have the option of doing what they want to certain degrees. So therefore, they worshipped these Avodah Zaros. So Eliyahu wanted to prove them that Hashem hu Elokim, God is one God, and He does not designate any power to anything. He takes care of everything, and nobody and nothing can do anything without the will and the power of Hashem. So they had two altars, one for Hashem and one for the Baal. And the understanding was that to which altar, to which Mizbeach, the fire will come down from heaven, that will prove who the God is, who the real God is. And so they prepared 2 oxen, two animals, that one should be the sacrifice to Hashem, and one to Lahavdil, the Baal. So the Gemara tells us that the animal which was chosen to be sacrificed on the altar of the Baal refused to budge. He won't move. And he said to Eliyahu, I and my buddy, the other ox, we both ate from one receptacle. We both ate oats from the same pail or whatever. Why should he go to Hashem, or why should I go to the Baal? So he refused to budge. So Eliyahu Navi told him, just like a Kiddush Hashem, glory to God will come out from the ox, which is going to be sacrificed on the altar of Hashem, and the fire is going to come down, and it's going to prove and proclaim that there's one God, and that's going to be a Kiddush Hashem. It's going to be a big privilege to this ox, that he was the agent to bring the Emunah to Klal Yisrael, and certainly that ox will be very much elevated through that. So Eliyahu said, likewise, you, by being sacrificed to the Baal and accepting your role, and a fire will not come down on the Mizbeach for you, so you are likewise going to make a Kiddush Hashem by proving the negative. So then the ox decided that it's going to go. However, Yankov Avinu's animals were on a higher madreiga. They were on a higher level than those two animals of Eliyahu Navi. Because of course, Eliyahu Navi is Eliyahu Navi, but Yankov is Yankov. So his animals also are on a higher level. So by Yankov, the animals volunteered to go. Vayikach min haba biyadai. Yankov wouldn't be so cruel as to take an ox and say, you're going to Esav. The animals were so devoted and dedicated to Yankov, they said, I'm going. And 580 animals exactly to the numerical value, to the number which was necessary to bring out a certain remez, a certain symbol. So that number of animals, vayikach min haba biyadei, those who came into his hands, mincha liyasav achiv, they came to and volunteered to be a present for Esav. And in the Medrash of this week, we have an interesting story that Rabbi Aishia, one of the Ameirayim, one of the Chachamim in the times of the Gemara, was approached by an Amoretz, one who has no knowledge or very little knowledge in Torah. And this Amoretz said, Rebbe, if I am going to tell you a finding, an original finding, a chiddush, which I found in the Torah, are you going to darshan it? Are you going to say it in my name? So Rabbi Aishia said, if it's going to be fitting to say it from the pulpit for the congregation, I'm going to repeat it in your name. And he told them. It says in the pasuk in Tehillim, Malchei Sarsha Shvi'iyim Mincha Yeshivu. When Mashiach will come, the kings of Tarshish and the islands will they will return a gift to the Melech HaMashiach. Why does the pasuk say Mincha Yeshivu? They will return a gift. It should have said Mincha Yitnu. They will offer a gift. They will give a gift. You don't return a gift. So this Amoretz said that Yankov Avinu gave a gift to Esav. That gift Esav still has. It's still in his possession. When Mashiach will come, Esav will have to give back that gift. So therefore it says, Malchi Shua V'yiyim mincha yeshiva, they're going to return that gift. The gift which they returned from Yankov, that they'll have to give back. So Rabbi Yishia said it's a wonderful finding in the Torah, and I'm going to darshan it in your name. I'm going to repeat it in your name for the congregation. And he did. And this piece of Torah from the Amoritz has found its way into the Medrash, and it's a very fortunate piece of Torah, and that Amoritz is very fortunate that every year thousands of Talmidei Chachamim learn the Chiddush and they repeat the Chiddush of this Amoritz. Now, at previous sessions, we mentioned that every Jew has a ice in the Sefer Torah. And that's why we're called Yisrael, right? Yesh shishim ribei Isiyas LaTorah, Yisrael. There are 600,000 Isiyas in the Torah for every Jew. And as we mentioned last week, 600,000 herds. There are 600,000 families, perhaps groups of Jews, and each one is corresponding to one of the Isiyas in the Sefer Torah. We are part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu Sefer Torah. We have a Sefer Torah. Hashem has a Sefer Torah. What's Hashem's Sefer Torah? We are. Chol b'nayich lamudei Hashem. We are the study material of Hashem. We are His Sefer Torah. So, every Jew has an ice in the Sefer Torah. But, of course, it isn't a random ice. It's the ice which is His uniquely, and which is His because He lives and derives from that ice. That ice is His channel from where He receives all His shefa, all His bounty in ruchnius and in gashmius. Now, the Ari HaKadosh says that when they pick up the Sefer Torah, by Hagba, like this, so everybody should come near to the Sefer Torah and look at the Isiyas. If he will be fortunate that his eye will hit that ice which is his, it will bring a light into his neshama. And therefore, those who know it and those who aren't lazy are going to crowd around the Sefer Torah when they pick it up for Hagba and try to take a peek. Maybe they will be lit up by the ice which is theirs. And they're going to feel it for the day or for the week or for the year or for whatever the case will be. So each one of us has an ice. And we wonder where our ice is. And I would say that almost nobody knows. But everybody has an ice. Now, Yaakov Avinu sent animals to Esav. These animals were Jewish neshamas. Now they're by Esav. And Esav directs their affairs. And Esav is the one who takes care of them, that they should have nourishment, that they should have shelter. Esav is the one. And Esav directs them where to go, where to lie down, where to graze. He is the one who directs them. The Gemara tells us, who is Esav? The Malach of Esav is, as I mentioned before, the Samach Man. He is the Malach of Esav. The Samach Man has several names. The Gemara gives him 3 names besides the other names that he has. He is called the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death. He is called the Yetzer Hara. He is called the Satan. And he has 3 roles. First he comes to a person, and he is the Yetzer Hara. And he talks him into doing an Avayah. After the Avayah has been done, he goes up to the heavenly throne, and he becomes the Satan. And he registers a complaint. This and this person did this and this avayra. Then there is a din, and a sentence is passed, and he is the one who has to execute that sentence. Then he becomes a malach hamavis and comes down to execute that sentence. In any form of misa. Misa has many forms. The Gemara would say malikat lekula, malikat lepalgi. You can kill somebody completely. You can kill somebody half. If somebody suffers any kind of affliction, there is a little part of misa, a little part of death in that. Anything which is negative, anything which is the opposite of happiness, of life, of brecha, chayim, shalom, taiva, is called misa. So he is Esav. And the Gemara says that there are three categories of Jews. Tzadikim, Bainanim, and Rishayim. The Tzadikim, those who are the real righteous people who always do right, generally. The Bainanim, those sometimes this way and sometimes that way, like the Jewish saying is Amal Malach and Amal Galach. Sometimes they're good and then they fall. So what happens? Person falls, he gets up, brushes off his pants and goes later, And then there are the Rishayim who are fundamentally bad, and they don't give a hoot. They don't even care when they did something wrong. The conscience doesn't itch them. So the Gemara says like this: the tzaddikim, the Yetzer Tov Shaftan. The Yetzer Tov is the one who directs their affairs, and they always listen to the Yetzer Tov. The Bainanim, the Rishayim, Yetzer Hara Shaftan. It's like you have a tribunal of judges, 3 judges. So they all state their opinions. Every judge has an opinion, and so a person has 3 judges seated within his heart. There is the right side, the left side, that means the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, and the Machriya, the one who gives the decree, the decision, which weighs that. Right, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. So the tzaddikim, they always listen to the opinion of the Yetzer Tov. In other words, he is their judge, because it's his opinion which directs their affairs. The Rishayim always listen to the opinion of the Yetzer Hara. That means he directs their affairs. He's their shayfet. The Bainanim is their shayf, and they sway, sometimes this way, sometimes that way. They do a mitzvah, yummy, then they do an aveira, then they feel bad. But they're Bainanim, they sway back and forth. But the Rishayim, the Yetzer Hara, is their shayfet. Esav is their shayfet. He directs their affairs. These animals who went to Esav, they are the Amaratzim, the Rishayim. They're the ones who always conduct themselves according to the dictates of Esav. He's their shayfet. This was a certain, I would say, a certain appeasement that Yankov sent to Esav. Esav was crying, and he cried when he found out that Yankov got the brachas. Esav was shouting, Esav was complaining, and when somebody complains, you have to hear his complaints. So Yankov wanted to pacify Esav. Quiet down, Esav. I'll give you a lollipop. And he threw him these 580 behemoths. Keep busy, and don't bother. So that is why there are people among Klal Yisrael today who are being dictated by Esav, by the Yetzer Hara. And it couldn't have been otherwise. The kitzchut would have been too big. If Yankov would have not given anything to Esav, Esav's complaints would have gone to Supreme Court. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have, who always keeps a balanced aquarium in this world, between Taiva and Ra, between good and evil, would have said, look, Esav is right. And this is how it works until Mashiach will come. When Mashiach will come, Esav will never be right. But that's how it looks on the surface now. This is, maybe we'll discuss that at another session. But Melech b'mishpat yamed aretz. HaKadosh Baruch Hu conducts this world with mishpat, with a scale, a scale, and he keeps it balanced. And Esav is supposed to have his chaylik, and Yankov is supposed to have his chaylik. And sometimes when until Mashiach comes, sometimes when the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to give Yankov more than his half, he'll have to do it in a stealthy manner. Like he did when, when Esav always protests when he sees that Mashiach is coming. So by light, it had to be stealthily through the daughters of light, because, and from them came out Rus, and Rus, the way she came to Boaz, it wasn't so simple that Rus may marry Boaz. There were Shitas who were machmirim, from people, very religious people who said, no, to marry a Mayavis. Who says that your head was right, you should be machmir. And Taiv was machmir, the uncle of Boaz. But Boaz knew the halacha very clearly, he knew that there's no way to be machmir here. And this is a very important Indian to know. Sometimes, there are some people who are going to wreck themselves to complete nervousness because they want to be machmir and everything. If they want to be machmir, so we see from these parshas and from these occurrences that even Mashiach isn't for order machmirim. It's going to be a pity on the machmirim when Mashiach will come. Mashiach isn't according to all the shitas. The word Sanhedrin and the Rosh of the Sanhedrin, Dayiga Daimi, the chief of the Sanhedrin, said that Mashiach, that David HaMelech isn't kosher because he comes out from Mayav. And he comes out from the mother's side, says from the women of Mayav. But we don't pass him that way. We're not machim. The halacha is that the women of Mayav are mutter. Only the men of Mayav are also. So, I think I went away on a tangent. I don't remember why I came to this. Anyway, I'm going to try to find my way back.
Hashem had to orchestrate that. Based on it should come
right, seal. Melech b'mishpat right. Melech b'mishpat yamed aretz. Rebbeinu Shalom keeps a balanced scale, and till Mashiach will come, whatever is on one side for Yankov has to be balanced on the other side for Esav, at least. So therefore, Yankov had to throw him a bone. He had to give him these animals. And therefore there are, and it couldn't be otherwise he would have lost everything. So therefore there are Jews today, and in older generations, who are under the dictation of Esav. The way he dictates, that's how they behave. These are Esav's animals, but they really come back to Yankov. This Amaretz, who was in Rabbi Aishia's congregation, had an ice in a Sefer Torah. He's also a Jew. All the Jews have an ice in a Sefer Torah. But being that he is an Amaretz, he doesn't learn Torah. And certainly one who doesn't learn Torah doesn't know how to behave like a Jew. And worse than that, not only doesn't he know how to behave, he can't mobilize enough strength to fight the Yetzer Hara. Because the Gemara says, Hashem said, Barasi Yetzer Hara, I created the Yetzer Hara, Ubarasi Elai Torah Tavlin, and I also created an antidote against the Yetzer Hara. That is the Torah. As long as you learn Torah, you have an antidote against the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is a very powerful being. And I don't think I have to prove my point. I think it's very self-evident how strong the Yetzer Hara is. How could a person really prevail over the Yetzer Hara? The answer is only with the Kayach of Torah. And if anybody is going to tell you that he could ward off his temptations, he can ward off his evil inclinations without Torah, tell him that the Gemara says he's a liar. Because the Gemara says that Hashem said, I created the Yetzer Hara, and there's an antidote against the Yetzer Hara, and that's Torah. Without Torah, we have nothing to fight the Yetzer Hara with. Being that he was an Amoritz, he didn't have the Torah to fight the Yetzer Hara with. So I suppose that he fell through quite often. And if so, well, take a guess. Where is his ice in the Sefer Torah? Well, I would say, you wanted to say something? No, this Amoritz of the congregation of Rav. My guess is that he is in the parasha, in those psukim where it speaks about the animals which were sent to Esav. He's either the Gimel of Gemalim, or he's the Pei of Parais, or he's the Ayin of Ayorim. He's one of those animals. And his ice is in the Sefer Torah. And if he would come to the shul on Parshas Vayishlach and stand by the Amit, by the Bima, by Hagba, and look at the Isis, he would find his ice in one of the animals which were shipped off to Esav. And that's why he acts how he is, and that's why he's an Amoritz, because he's one of Esav's animals. Being that every Jew has an ice in the Sefer Torah, and every ice in the Sefer Torah is alive, we have a Torah Schayim, a Torah which has vitality in itself. The Torah lives. Being that every Jew has an ice in the Sefer Torah which lives, every ice generates light and knowledge and perception. So therefore, there isn't any Jew in the world who once during his life didn't say a chiddush in the Torah. Every Jew has to be mechadish something in the Sefer Torah. He has to discover something new in the Sefer Torah, because the lamp of his ice is glowing, and it glows and it generates knowledge, it generates life, it generates existence in the world. And Rabban Shalom is mechadish praliyam tamid ma'aseh bereishis. He is mechadish. Rabban Shalom renews and rejuvenates the creation every day through the Isis of the Sefer Torah. And the rejuvenation of the world every day is translated by us through finding a chiddush, through finding something new in the Torah. So every Amoritz even, without realizing it, will at least once during his life say a chiddush in the Sefer Torah. He's going to say it perhaps without realizing the importance of what he said, without having an understanding in how deep a thing he said. It happens. Sometimes it happens with us. Now we sometimes say very deep thoughts, and then we realize, wow, I really said something. Without us realizing, without struggling to find it, we sometimes find things, a certain perception, like a certain divine revelation. It comes to us. So, this Amoritz, being that he is also an ice in the Sefer Torah, and being that his ice is in the animals of Esav's gift, he said a chiddush which pertains to this parasha. And his chiddush in the Torah was that the entire gift that Yankov sent to Esav will be returned when Mashiach comes. And it is a real big chiddush, because otherwise it's very difficult. This pasuk mincha yeshiva, they're going to give back a gift. And imagine Mashiach, the great, wonderful Mashiach, who is emperor of the entire world, without having a sword in his hands, without as much as a firecracker in his arsenal, and he is king of the whole world. It's with the word of God that he is king. So, and Mashiach is going to have so much splendor, and the gates of Yerushalayim will be open, and they're going to bring gold and gems every day, like the Navi says, like we find in the Haftarahs of the Nechemtes. So big deal. So Esav is going to return 580 animals. What's that to Mashiach? What kind of a gift is that? So he's going to make Mashiach happy by returning the gifts? Yes, he will make him happy. Because these aren't ordinary animals, these are Jewish neshamas. And every Jewish neshama is an entire universe. It's an Olam Amalei. So therefore, so it means that all the Amaratzim, all the Rishayim of Klal Yisrael, which are symbolized in these 580 animals, the Gematria Yisrael, all of them are going to come back, they're going to return and become Talmidei Chachamim, they'll become Tzadikim, they're going to point with the fingers and show that they see the Rabbeinu Shalom. Zeh Hashem Kivinu Ulay. Just like they did by Kriyas Yamsuf. And that means the return of the gift. The return of the gift means the return of Klal Yisrael. Everyone who was astray, everyone who fell by the wayside, is going to return, which means that the gift to Esav, the appeasement to Esav, will be returned back to Yankov Avinu. Being that this Amaretz was from the animals of Esav, this was the specific chiddush of his neshama, because that's where his neshama belongs. In these psukim, so it was mechaji, something which pertains to his neshama. And therefore, without realizing, this Amaretz had a request. His request wasn't only that Rabbi Oshia should listen to him, but that Rabbi Oshia should repeat his chiddush for the congregation. Why? Why did the Amaretz request that? Did he want the pride? If that would have been the case, the Medrash wouldn't have brought this down. And the Medrash wouldn't have told us that Rabbi Shia has consented to do his will, because that's vanity, that's nonsense. The Medrash has to make a big spiel out of this. There was something else involved here. The Amaretz alone didn't know what he's asking for. The Baal Shem Tov and his great Talmidim had a way that when somebody came to them and asked them for certain yeshuas, for certain deliverances that they needed, whether it was healing or parnasa or whatever they asked for. So these tzaddikim said that while this person stands and talks to me and he asks me that he needs a Yeshua in his earthly matters, so concurrently his neshama stands before me, and the neshama bewoes its condition that it needs a Yeshua in Ruchni, that it has to do tshuva, that it has to be better. See, tzaddikim here, when the simple person stands before the tzaddik doesn't only have his ears open to this person whose physical mouth is talking. The tzaddik listens to the neshama also. So when this Amaretz requested that it should be repeated, this Amaretz alone didn't know why he has this internal deep desire that this chiddush should be repeated. Why? Why did he want it to be repeated? He wanted to make it in the newspapers? Why did he want it to be repeated? It was really a request of his neshama, which was picked up by his physical mind. The Gemara says, well, it's in Pirkei Avos, if you repeat something, if you repeat the chiddush of the Torah and you repeat it in the name of the one who said it, that brings a geula, that brings a redemption to the world. This Amaretz felt that he's in Galus, he's by Esav, and he wanted to bring geula by broadcasting this chiddush. Let the world know this chiddush, that I am going to return. I am an Amaretz. I do not live by the dictates of the Torah because of my ignorance and because of my inability to ward off the temptations of the Yetzer Hara. But I belong to Yankov eventually, and this is, I must return. When the Geula will come, I will return. And therefore, being that he is looking and waiting for the Geula, he wanted to speed up the Geula by having something repeated in his name. Because so, and therefore, Rabbi Aishia was very obliging. Of course I'm going to repeat it in your name and bring a Geula to the world. Because in your piece of Torah, there is the key to Geula. That's the code of Geula. When everyone who is under the management of Esav will return to Yankov, when the Mosheim will ascend at the Har Tzion, Lishpeitas HaEsav, that they're going to be the Shaftim, they're going to be the dictators, they're going to be the judges of those who are under Esav, then V'haisal Hashem HaMelucha, that's going to be the Yeshua. If I remember, I think it's this week's Haftarah. I didn't say the Haftarah yet. That's usually said on Friday. Right? It's the last pasuk of the Haftarah. So, thank you very much. So, this was the fulfillment of the Amoratz's inner desire that this piece of Torah shall become the spiritual heritage of Klal Yisrael. Let it be learned over by thousands of Jews every year at Parshas Vayishlach, and let them know and say b'shem Eimrei, in the name of the Amoritz, that the Amoritz himself proclaims loud and shrill, I am going to return. I will eventually return. And therefore, by the mere fact that he announces this, it activates him that he should return speedier yet and come back to the flock of Yankov and flee from the flock of Esav. He shouldn't belong there anymore. So, just one little idea in the Sedra. These animals that return, that they find themselves under the jurisdiction of Esav, but their roots are in Yankov, will have to come back to the flock, no matter what happens. Eventually, Be'ita or by Achishena, before Mashiach comes or with the coming of Mashiach, those who are fortunate won't have to wait until Mashiach comes. They're going to return earlier. And those who are not so fortunate will do tshuva when Mashiach comes, but they have to return to the flock. Yankov sent a present to Esav. It was these 580 animals. In our Sadra this week, there is an unusual indictment. Yankov is indicted that he should have sent an additional nefesh to Esav. He should have given him his daughter. Rashi brings it that when Yankov met Esav, Dinah was put into a box and was hidden so that Esav shouldn't see her. And Yankov was punished for that. What if Esav would have seen her? Dinah would have been quite attractive to Esav, and he would have married her. And if he would have married her, she, the daughter of Yankov, would have turned him into a tzaddik. Because this is one of the big yesaides, one of the big axioms that every Jew to whom this is applicable must know, that his Jewish life, his religious life, his spiritual life, which means his entire fortune, is depending on the kind of a wife which he'll get. A wife can make or a wife can break. If she's a tzaddikus, she'll make the husband a tzaddik. If Otherwise, then Chas v'Shalom otherwise. If Esav would have married Dinah, there was a good chance that he would have turned to the good. After he was a child of Yitzchak and a grandchild of Abraham, he would have come back. Esav alone has to come back. He's also a Jew. The Gemara calls him a Yisrael Mumel, a Jew who went astray. Dinah could have steered him off his course of evil and back to his roots, to Yitzchak, to his parents, Yitzchak and Rivka. Now, so the Gemara says, because Yankov withheld Dinah from Esav, and he didn't offer her as a wife for Esav, Yankov suffered. And in the next parsha, Dinah was kidnapped by Shechem, and you probably you learned the parsha that he molested her. So I've never heard of any great tzaddik. I married off 4 daughters, and I never had the slightest notion of marrying off my daughter to a Rasha because she's going to make him a tzaddik. I looked for Talmid Chachamim and tzaddikim for my daughters, and so does every Jew. And all the tzaddikim do that. The Baal Shem Tov didn't, who certainly loved Jews, didn't marry off his daughter to Rishayim, and the Baal Shem Tov's daughters could have transformed Rishayim into tzaddikim. And all the Gedolim before and before and before, we never heard of such a thing. That you're supposed to give your daughter to a Rasha so that she shall transform her. No, we're looking for tzaddik. So what do you want from Yankov? And why does the Torah have this taina? Why does the Torah have this criticism against Yankov that it didn't offer Dinah to Esav? But this story has a history. There's a recorded history from before. There were 2 daughters to Lavan, and there were 2 sons to Yitzchak. And the people said, the older will take the older one. That means Esav is going to marry Leah, and the younger one, Yankov, is going to marry Rachel, the younger daughter. And therefore Leah was weeping. V'yeiner Leah rakas, she cried. And what people say goes. Now, if everybody says so, when people say something, there is a certain transmission of a message from heaven that makes all the people say a certain thing. And really the people were right, because the Medrash tells us that because Leah wept, she caused it so that this decree was ripped up by Shemayim and she was able to marry Yankov. What happened was, every person has a zivug, which is his, a half of his neshama. Every person has a match, a woman who is his match, and that they were, Bashemayim, they were one. When they have to come down to this world, they're sliced in half. One comes down as the male, the other as a female, and then they meet and they get married. And Leah was really supposed to go to Esav. But Leah wept, and with tefillah, with prayer, you can accomplish anything. And she just ripped herself out of the talons of Esav, and she married Yankov by virtue of her tefillahs. But really, she belonged to Esav. So there was something here that Yankov did. He took what was Esav's, and he has to return. It's not his. So if Leah is now Yankov's, at least the extension of Leah, her daughter Dinah should go to Esav. So really it isn't that Yankov has to go put an ad in the paper and ask for a Rasha to marry his daughter. Yankov wasn't going out to look, and nothing. It isn't expected that Yankov should go and look for a Russia and be mahadel. He doesn't do a special mitzvah, give his daughter to a Russia. No, he owed a wife to Esav. He took Esav's wife, and there's a din of hashava. You have to return. If you take something illegally. Not al pi halacha, which is the correct way of saying it. If you take something not according to the din, you have to return it. Vayishlach zayla. So he had to return. And Dinah, the extension of Leah, was supposed to be Esav's wife as the substitute for Leah. He didn't give her to Esav, somebody who belongs to Esav, because Esav and the Malach of Esav is in charge of all the Rashayim, of all the Goyim. So they shall go to Shechem ben Chamaya. So the pasuk where Dinah was abducted by Shechem ben Chamaya says, "Vataitze Leah, Vataitze Dinah bas Leah." Dinah, because she was a daughter of Leah, found herself at this Gala festival, and she was abducted by Shechem. So, because she's a daughter of Leah, there's an old cheshbon. There's a chayv. There's a debt that has to be paid. And that's why Dinah rightfully belonged to Esav, because she was the extension of Leah. So what happened? Yankov sent 580 animals to Esav. He should have sent 581, because Dinah should have been there also. And Yankov withheld her. He didn't send her to Esav. So what happened? Esav got her anyway, in the form of Shechem ben Chamaya. So who really got her at the end? Esav. Was Shechem, the agent of Esav. The story doesn't end there. There's more to the story. That Shechem, when Dinah was abducted by Shechem, she bore a child to Shechem. The name of that child was Asnas. Why was she called Asnas? Because being that she was a child of Dinah and the Goy Shechem, the Shvatim just wanted to kill her. That such a person shouldn't exist in the family of Yankov. So the Medrash tells us that Yankov wanted to save her from what the Shvatim wanted to do to her, and he carried her away to the Midbar, to the desert, and he placed her on a sneh, on a thorn bush. And that's where she got the name Asnas from. And she, then came the Malach, Gabriel, and carried her away to Mitzrayim. And she is Asnas bas Potifera, who eventually married Yosef. And Yosef was given something by Yankov Avinu, a gift by Yankov Avinu. V'ani nasati lecha Shechem, the pasuk says in Vayechi. Yosef was given Shechem. Yosef's kever today is in the town of Shechem. I was, Baruch Hashem, very fortunate to be there a number of times already. It's a very dangerous place nowadays. But he is in Shechem. And in Shechem, Yosef returned together with his wife and his two children, Ephraim and Menashe, which are buried at his two sides, who are the descendants of Shechem and of Dinah. And really, his place is Shechem. So really, what happened was that at the end, what happens if somebody eats too much? He has to give it out. If you bite, you can't eat what you can't take in. You have to give it out. Esav had to spit it out. He had to vomit it out. And it came right back to Yankov in the city of Shechem. That's where he came back. And she came back to Shechem. She came back to the Kedusha. And she had the great-great-great-grandchild who was called Rabbi Chanina ben Tchadiyah. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh brings it, that he was a descendant of Dinah. And he was without knowing it, when Shechem said, "V'ya'aretz hine rachavas yadayim lefneihem," rachavas is the Rosh Tevus Rabbi Chanina ben Tchadiyah. Rabbi Chanina ben Tchadiyah, the great Tana, came out of this episode, and he was from the greatest Tanoim that we have. He was from the Asara Aruge Malchus, and he did. And the Gemara tells us very wonderful stories about him. In other words, he came back. He didn't wait for Mashiach. This present, which wasn't given to Esav, which wasn't given to Esav voluntarily, and Esav snatched it through Shechem, had to be returned. It came back to the flock. That was the end. That's a happy ending of the story, and this is symbolic. Just like Rachavas Yadayim, just like Rabbi Chanina ben Tchadiyah came back, all of these will come back. And our Parsha, Vayishlach, is a very big nechama. It's a very great consolation to our generation today, the generation of return. We see return today. Everybody returns. You know, as I mentioned once, that when Mashiach comes, there'll be a big thunderstorm of tshuva. Tshuva is going to rain down. Before Mashiach comes, the Gemara says in Chagiga that before every great period of rain, it starts off with a drizzle. Now we have a drizzle of tshuva. People are returning. When Mashiach will come, everybody will return. The entire gift is going to return. So the pasuk, the story of the gift of Yankov to Esav doesn't end until we already see the end of the story. We see, we have like a futurama. The Torah tells us, here is a symbol. Shechem abducted Dinah. Shechem had to return her. She came back to the place from where she was taken from, to the city of Shechem. And from her comes up Rabbi Chanina ben Tchadiyah. He is the symbol of all the animals and all the treasures and gems, because Rashi says he also gave them diamonds and gems. All the treasures and gems which were given to Esav are going to return. Malchei Shva'u, Malchei Mincha Yeshivu. Eventually, the present is going to return back, and every Jewish animal, every Jewish neshama will return to Yankov Avinu's flock.